Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most alarming and urgent crises unfolding right now in the Middle East. Iran, a nation already facing decades of environmental stress, political tension, and economic strain, is now confronting what experts are calling a zero-water moment. Millions of people may soon be forced to leave their homes as water reservoirs dry up, rivers vanish, and major cities approach complete dehydration. This is not a distant warning or a theoretical risk. It is happening right now, and the consequences could reshape the entire region in ways no one is prepared for. For years, analysts have warned that Iran's water system was collapsing under pressure. Rapid population growth, outdated agricultural methods, mismanagement, climate change, and sanctions have created a perfect storm. Iran once relied on vast lakes, ancient underground channels, dams, and seasonal rains to support its population. But today, satellite images show a far more worrying picture. Lake Urmia has shrunk to a shadow of its past. The Zyada River stands dry in long stretches where it once nourished entire communities. The underground aquifers, thousands of years old, have been pumped far faster than nature can replenish them. And now major cities like Tehran, Isfahan, Shiraz, and Mashhad are dealing with record low water levels that threaten basic survival. The situation has become so critical that some officials and environmental experts are warning that evacuation might soon become the only option for millions. Imagine that for a moment, entire districts of a capital city being abandoned because taps run dry, families relocating because there is simply no water to live on, schools, hospitals, markets, and businesses shutting down because the most basic element of life is gone. It is a scenario many believed could never happen in a modern nation, yet Iran is nearing that breaking point. What makes this crisis even more devastating is the speed at which it has accelerated. The past decade saw water shortages regularly appear in news reports. But this year, something changed. Rainfall dropped dramatically, temperatures increased, pushing evaporation rates to historic highs. Snowpack in mountains that normally feed rivers and reservoirs has declined sharply, and cracks in the entire water infrastructure began to show. Pipes burst from pressure, treatment facilities struggled, reservoirs fell to single-digit percentages. It wasn't gradual anymore, it was sudden. Across several provinces, people began lining up for water trucks. Videos on social media show parents filling buckets for their children, farmers watching their land turn to dust, protesters demanding answers from local authorities. In some areas, the situation became so tense that security forces were deployed to maintain order around water distribution centers. When a basic necessity becomes scarce, frustration turns to fear, and fear can quickly turn to unrest. The Iranian government has been scrambling to find immediate solutions. Emergency rationing is already being put into place. Some cities receive water only during certain hours of the day, and even those supply windows are shrinking. Plans are being discussed to pump water across provinces, but the pipelines and pumping stations needed for such massive transfers require time and money, two things Iran does not currently have in surplus. Desalination plants near the Persian Gulf exist, but they are nowhere near sufficient to support tens of millions of people living far inland. And even if the government could expand desalination, transporting that water to major cities would require an infrastructure overhaul that could take years. Meanwhile, agriculture, one of the biggest consumers of Iran's water, has taken a heavy hit. Farms that once produced wheat, pistachios, cotton, and fruits are now facing collapse. Without enough water, crops fail. When crops fail, farmers leave, and when farmers leave, rural areas empty, pushing even more pressure onto already strained urban centers. This wave of internal migration has been building slowly, but the zero water moment threatens to break the dam, forcing millions to relocate in a short span of time. The environmental toll is equally severe. Wetlands that supported ecosystems of birds, fish, and native plants have dried up, killing off wildlife and disrupting the natural balance. As the land dries, dust storms intensify. These storms sweep across cities, turning skies orange and making breathing difficult for millions. Medical experts warn that respiratory illnesses will rise sharply as dust increases and water quality worsens. Contaminated water sources become breeding grounds for disease, adding another layer to an already overwhelming crisis. Economically, the consequences are staggering. Factories requiring water for cooling or production have been forced to cut back or shut down. Hydropower plants that once supplied electricity are struggling due to low water flow. This has resulted in more power outages, reduced productivity, and rising costs for businesses. Combined with sanctions and inflation, Iran's economy is under immense pressure, and the water crisis threatens to push it beyond its limits. But perhaps the most unsettling part of this crisis is its geopolitical ripple effect. Water is not just a resource, it is a foundation for stability. When a nation of nearly 90 million people faces water collapse, the effects spill beyond its borders. Neighboring countries could see increased migration. Regional tensions could rise as Iran looks for ways to secure new water sources. Environmental stress can lead to political instability, and instability in Iran, given its regional significance, could reshape the entire Middle East. In some areas, residents have already begun leaving voluntarily. Those who have the financial means are securing homes in smaller towns or even outside the country. But millions do not have that option. They rely on local wells, municipal systems, or government distribution. And now, many of those systems are shutting down. Experts estimate that at least 10 million people may be forced to relocate if the current trend continues. That number could grow even higher if the drought deepens. The zero water moment was not inevitable. Many environmentalists argue that mismanagement played a major role. Iran invested heavily in dam building over the last few decades, often disrupting natural water flow and harming ecosystems that once kept the water cycle healthy. Farmers were encouraged to grow water-intensive crops in dry regions. Outdated irrigation systems waste enormous amounts of water. And in some cases, illegal wells have drained aquifers that took centuries to form. Without modern water-saving technologies, without reforms, and without proper planning, Iran's system was set up to fail. Now the bill has arrived, and it's devastating. There are attempts to fix things. Government engineers are exploring cloud seeding, though its results remain unreliable. Environmental scientists are pushing for major reforms in agriculture. Cities are testing water recycling systems. International organizations have offered assistance, but political barriers make cooperation difficult. Even if every solution was implemented immediately, the recovery would take years. What the Iranian people face now is a test of resilience. Communities are coming together, sharing limited resources, and supporting each other. Volunteers distribute water to vulnerable families. Activists raise awareness about conservation and sustainability, but without a national-level transformation of water policy, these efforts are patches on a sinking ship. The world is watching, not just out of concern for Iran, but because this crisis is a warning for other nations. climate change is accelerating water shortages across the globe. From California to India to South Africa, major cities are confronting the terrifying possibility of running out of water. Iran may be the first major country to approach a zero-water moment at this scale, but it may not be the last. The question becomes, will other nations learn from Iran's struggle before they face a similar fate? For the families living through this nightmare, the future is uncertain. Parents wonder how they will care for their children if water runs out. Students worry whether their schools will stay open. Workers fear losing their jobs. And millions wonder if they will be forced to abandon their hometowns, the places where they grew up, where their parents lived, and where generations built their lives. The emotional toll is immense. As cities prepare emergency evacuation plans, there is a growing sense of urgency across the country. Water trucks are becoming the new lifeline. People wait in long lines under the heat, hoping the supply doesn't run out before their turn. The anxiety of not knowing when or if water will return hangs heavily over communities. This is not just a water crisis. It is a human crisis, a societal crisis, a national crisis. The world often talks about wars, politics, and economics, but sometimes the greatest threat a country faces is something as simple as the empty space at the bottom of a dried-up well. When water disappears, everything else follows, and Iran is now at the edge of that reality. As we continue to follow this unfolding emergency, one thing is clear: the situation demands global attention. Whether through humanitarian aid, environmental cooperation, or technological support, the international community cannot afford to look away. The people of Iran are facing one of the most severe environmental disasters of our time, and the decisions made in the coming months will determine whether the nation can recover, or whether the zero-water era becomes permanent. Thank you for watching, and stay connected as we bring more updates on this critical and rapidly developing story.